There is an associate of the Proud Boys running for commissioner in the village of Downers Grove, Illinois, and early voting starts tomorrow. Let's talk about it, shall we? This is the Mary Kind Contrary podcast, and I am your host, Mary Lemanski. Thank you for joining me. I just want to get down to brass tacks here. Paul Drabik, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Drabik, is running for Downers Grove Village Commissioner. And I wasn't going to do a podcast on him, even though my name got brought up by people defending him online on the social media app next door. But then I got sent some information by other concerned citizens of Downers Grove. And so now I feel obligated to present the information that I was given. A little background. If you listen to my last three podcasts, they were from a live stream I did on Facebook on election night 2024, where I go into great detail about how I have been terrorized for the past 3 years by white supremacist domestic terrorists. After my tweets went viral, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. But this was all happened exactly 1 week after speaking at a school board meeting where I live in Downers Grove, where Proud Boys were present. And in one of those last three podcasts that I did, which was just one like 4 hour live stream on Facebook, well, maybe more than one of the episodes, I talk about a man named Terry Newsom. So let me refresh your memory on Terry. Terry Newsom is an elected Republican precinct committee person in, I believe it's District 141. He lives in Darien, Illinois. Please don't elect him again. He's an extremist, which I talked about on my past episode. He has multiple articles on him, about him on the Southern Poverty Law Center's website. So if you look up Southern Poverty Law Center and Terry Newsom, you'll find 3 articles for sure that I found. And let me just one is exclusive reporting: Illinois GOP official affiliates with extremist groups and shares racist post. It says, and this is from December 1st of 2022. So it's a few years ago. But a couple of years ago, a new investigative report released today by the Southern Poverty Law Center's Hate Watch reveals that an official in Illinois' DuPage County Republican Party is a leader in a radical parent group, affiliates with extremist groups, and has a history of bigoted rhetoric and sharing racist posts on social media. Republican Precinct Committee person Terry Newsom, who frequently appears in local and national media, has a well-documented history of far-right activity. It's deeply troubling that Terry Newsom serves in a leadership position within the local Republican Party, and worse still, he's often provided a platform by local and national media to spread his message of hate, said Jeff Tischauer, senior research analyst with the Southern Poverty Law Center's Intelligence Project, who wrote the report. When local media presents his views without the context of his organized far-right activity, they're unwittingly, or maybe knowingly, lending legitimacy to his extremism. The report details Newsom's troubling activity, including his work leading a hard right parents group and collaboration with the radical parent group Moms for Liberty, who I don't know if I don't believe Moms for Liberty was at the meeting, the school board meeting where the Proud Boys were at, but uh, but there were parents groups there led by Newsom. Anyway, so he works at leading hard right parents groups. He's affiliated with Moms for Liberty. Both are aimed at alienating LGBTQ plus students and preventing lessons on the nation's long history of systemic racism. Um, uh, at the uh, at the school board meeting where the Proud Boys and Terry were at, um, they were um, protesting the book Genderqueer. Uh, so Terry has ties to and activity with the Proud Boys. He has an active presence on hard right social media where he displays his extremist views and affiliations. He has been targeting of the LGBTQ community, including his efforts to organize a local chapter of the anti-LGBTQ hate group Mass Resistance. He has a long history of attempting to shut down community events at libraries, which I'll talk about here in a bit, and um, other places, I assume, associated with LGBTQ plus inclusion, both through online platforms and in-person protests. So he uses online platforms to intimidate people. Um, if you go on to the Southern Poverty Law Center's website, you'll see another article, Illinois radical parent activist has hate group ties, history of racist post. I brought up this article, I believe, on the podcast before. It shows him with uh, a known Proud Boy. It shows it was District 141. He's precinct captain of District 141, and lives in Darien. He, yeah, he has ties to Awake Illinois and Moms for Liberty. Um, he's a precinct committee person. Hangs out with Proud Boys. Here's a picture. He was at the God Save America tour in Lisle, Illinois. Um, so if you go on the Southern Poverty Law Center, there's a whole article on him. I did bring up some things on there from that article on my last podcast from that article. But the most recent article on him, which I actually will share since I can do that. I'm doing this through Zoom. The latest article from the Southern Poverty Law Center had with Trump's immigration plans met Proud Boy associate about deportations. So here we have Tom Homan, who is President Donald Trump's head of immigration policy, right there with Terry Newsom, who hangs out with Proud Boys and terrorizes people online and offline. So anyway, let me read a little bit of this. The head of President Donald Trump's immigration policy, Tom, it says, content warning, this article contains graphic and racist language. Reader discretion is advised. Just a warning. The head of President Donald Trump's immigration policy, Tom Homan, appears to have met with an associate of the Proud Boys on at least 4 separate occasions. At least one of these instances was a private meeting held in Chicago after the 2024 presidential election to talk about deportations, according to social media posts reviewed by Hate Watch. Homan, who leads the Trump administration's efforts to curb immigration at the border as well as deport migrants across the U.S., met with Terry Newsom in Chicago and Washington, D.C., according to posts on Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. An article on a conservative news site written by Newsom's podcast host also alleges that Newsom hosted a private meeting with Homan and local Chicago politicians December 11th, 2024, to discuss deportations in Chicago. In December 12th, 2024, post to X, Newsom added, during our meetings, Tom directed the politicians to follow up with me as his POC, meaning point of contact. Newsom then met with Homan on December 19th in DC at a party to celebrate Trump's upcoming inauguration. Homan was also a guest on Newsom's podcast on October 2024 and was a featured speaker at an anti-immigration event Newsom hosted in Chicago in June 2024. While specific details on the Trump administration's deportation plans are vague, Homan posted on X on November 16, 2024, that mass deportation is coming, and at a December event for local Republicans said that they will start right here in Chicago, which they tried to do. During the presidential campaign, I believe it stopped. I believe those deportations stopped. During the presidential campaign, Trump and his allies advocated for deporting millions of undocumented migrants. According to a U.S. Customs and Border Protection memo dated January 21st, the Trump administration officials seek to use military bases to house migrants, as well as create 14 new detention facilities capable of housing 1,000 migrants each, and 4 more facilities with the capacity to house 10,000 migrants each. On January 21st, Trump authorized Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that's ICE, and the CBP to conduct raids at schools, churches, and courthouses, which the Obama administration stopped in 2011. Hate watch. Excuse the background noise. That's I'm filming this in my kitchen, and my son's putting away soda. I may or may not edit this out. Oh, he says I shouldn't, so I'm just going to leave it. No, this is authentic. This is me being me, and this is authentic. And I'm right here in Downers Grove. Come at me. Your exact address. No, 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 no. All right. So anyway, Hate Watch attempted to reach Homan by emailing the White House press office, but did not receive a response before publication. A previous Hate Watch investigation into Newsom's activities in the Chicago metro region found him associating with Proud Boys, harassing participants at LGBTQ plus events and inclusive events, LGBTQ plus inclusive events, as well as sharing bigoted, anti-Black racist imagery online. The racist imagery Newsom shared multiple times to Getter featured a racist cartoon depiction of a Black man drawn with exaggerated features. Getter is a low moderation social media platform that is popular with white supremacist groups, in case you wanted to know. White supremacists have used dehumanizing caricatures of Black people for centuries. And Hate Watch also found that Newsom liking an anonymous comment that had the N-word on Getter. This is an elected Republican precinct committee person. As Homan begins to implement Trump's administration deportation plans, his association with such figures as Newsom, who openly collaborates with violent groups like the Proud Boys, is particularly dangerous for targeted communities. In videos Newsom has posted to his social media accounts, he has harassed people outside migrant shelters, hoping to create viral moments for his podcast. In an August 4th, 2024 post to Facebook, Newsom referred to these as his Venezuelan gang member hunting trips. Um, and now suddenly Trump's saying stuff about Venezuelans. Um, Newsom also appears to be in direct communication with ICE officials. We're nowhere near the border. In a January 23 interview on, unless you're talking about the Canadian border, Newsom also appears in direct communication with ICE officials in a January 23rd interview on Steve Bannon's podcast. He was on Steve Bannon's podcast. Oh my gosh. Newsom appeared alongside Ben Bergquam, a conservative podcast host, to talk about immigration raids in Chicago. Bergquam told Bannon, "We are in contact with folks in ICE and getting updates as raids happen." 3 days later, on January 26th, Homeland ICE officers and other officials conducted raids in Chicago. So, is the Trump administration communicating with Proud Boys? Um, Newsom, whom Hate Wash contacted via email, responded to questions about his relationship to Homan and the Proud Boys, writing, "You aren't an investigator. You shill for radical left-winged Downers Grove extremists. I look forward to responding in kind after your story." Um, these radical left-wing Downers Grove extremists, huh? Um, so there's much more about if you want to read about Terry Newsom and his ties to Homan and the Proud Boys. Um, it's all very interesting. There's more and more, more and more on this article as I'm scrolling through it that I want to comment on, but I'm just gonna stop there um, because there's this podcast episode is not about Terry Newsom, but I need to set you up with that information first because there's more. So um, just for proof that the Proud Boys were at the Downers Grove um, school board meeting. Here's Proud Boys joint efforts to ban genderqueer book from school library rattling students in suburban Chicago. Um, and you can see them here if you're watching the video, which will be on my Facebook. Um, I may decide to post it to my web pages too as well, but you can go to Chicago sometimes, look up Proud Boys, Downers Grove, and you can see um, them. They're all holding up signs for genderqueer and things that say no porn. Um, but in this article, on the board meeting, that the Proud Boys were there, I believe they interviewed Terry Newsom, sometimes interviewed Terry Newsom um, at that meeting. I know they interviewed some of the people in the student body. I'm looking through this article. Um, oh yeah, Terry Newsom, who spoke at the meeting, said he didn't want his concerns as a parent of two high schoolers to be conflated with Proud Boys messaging. Newsom said he and another parent have a meeting scheduled with district administrators this week to discuss the book. You got the politics of the left and right with the Antifa and Proud Boys who have their own political agendas, I guess, Newsom said, referring in part to the decentralized anti-fascist activists who track and protest extremist groups. There is no Antifa. The FBI has said there isn't one. It's an ideology. It's not an organized group. Unlike the Proud Boys, who are an organized group and who do terrorize people. Um, but he's saying these things about the Proud Boys, but then he has connections to them, which Hate Watch has found and the Southern Poverty Law Center. So anyway, he says he doesn't have anything to do that what the Proud Boys were therefore had nothing to do with his complaints, but they were both complaining about the same thing. So um, the Proud Boys were notorious about going to school board meetings and protesting books and protesting LGBTQ student inclusive things at schools. And they were also going around uh, going to libraries, board meetings, and protesting there. So trying to get books banned from school libraries and community libraries. But if you go to the Chicago Sun-Times website, you can see there um, the article about the Proud Boys. And so I spoke at this school board meeting. There's probably a video somewhere even. Um, and um, oops. And so anyway, um, so that I spoke at that meeting, and then the group of women that got up, mothers uh, um, that got together later on during the week to talk about what had happened. One of the mothers told everyone there at our meeting that they had been calling her, Proud Boys had been calling her place of work and trying to get her fired for supporting porn. And she said, watch yourselves. And so then a week later after that, and I find it interesting, I did not realize before that Terry Newsom had a history of terrorizing people online. But I, I a week later, after speaking at the school board meeting, my tweets went viral, and I think the thing that really made my tweets go viral is that I said um, that Waukesha was karma for the the Rittenhouse verdict. And it's not the first time a politician or somebody involved in politics has blamed um, the other side for an atrocity. Um, the Republican Party does it on a regular basis with gay people and hurricanes and every other kind of disaster. So, um, but I step down. They do not. They stay in office, and their preachers collect millions of dollars in money for saying things, stuff like that. So I don't know. Um, you can judge me, you can judge them, but they get away with it, and I don't. I don't know if it's because I'm a woman or if it's because I'm a Democrat and have morals. I don't know. Um, or I vote Democrat, I guess. I'm not a registered Democrat anymore. Anyway, so my tweets went viral, but I wanted to show you something really interesting just since we're on the topic of my tweets going viral. Um, 1 second. Okay, I need to share. And if you're not watching this on, hmm, oh, I'm not scrolling far enough. If you're listening to this podcast instead of watching the video, I'll just describe it. I'm sharing a screenshot, and this is what to go. Oh, there we go. This is what it looks like when nobody cares about you, and then all of a sudden your tweets go viral because Fox News decides that something you said at 2 o'clock in the morning is breaking news at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then this is what happens after. So if you're not watching this, there's my I have 0K stats going on, and then all of a sudden I have about 1,500 um, plays, and then over this is on November 22nd, um, which is when this all happened, when this all that went down. And then over the next coming days, it goes down to basically nothing. And it says December 6th, it's at zero, but even way before that, it was at zero. So this lasted like 2 days, and of people being angry um, and it was mainly just people on the right, and it was probably just all Proud Boys and white supremacist domestic terrorists who are all tied together and running our government, apparently. Um, but anyway, uh, so yeah, there's my little spike of not even 15 minutes of name because it was like to 1,500 people. Um, so anyway, after my tweets went viral, so Terry Newsom continued to have protests, like those articles said, against schools and libraries. Um, the libraries mainly for having drag queen story time and other events that he didn't agree with. Um, and as I mentioned before, the Proud Boys are notorious for protest at libraries across the country. And just the far right in general are. Um, but it should also be noted that it's the first thing that fascists want to um, get rid of is libraries and education because it allows them to control people better. So anyway, you're like, well, what does this have to do with Paul Drabik? And one thing is that Paul Drabik's main concern um, in an article that I found, let me see, this one was in suburban life. This is on the Shaw Local News Network for DuPage and suburban Cook counties. And in this, there's, well, here, let me go ahead and share since I'm on here, but I will still read it. I still will read it to all of you on the podcast. Oops. Okay, here we go. So, so here's Paul Drabik. Move my face out of the way. Downers Grove Village Commissioner, and there's his face right there. Um, he He's experienced. I mean, at least he's more qualified for his position than most of the people in Trump's cabinets. But, um, and you can go on here and look him up if you really want to, if you're looking to vote for him or whatever and want to read more about him. He's in Suburban Life. Just look up Paul Drabik, Suburban Life. Um, but one of the questions that concern me after all I've just told you about libraries and Terry Newsom, um, uh, is there a particular issue or controversy that influenced your decision to run? One of my main concerns is the governance and bureaucracy of the Downers Grove Library. Um, just so you know, the Downers Grove Library is a place that so many people in the community just love. Um, the children's section is incredible. They have events all the time, every day for children, and it's just it's such a great resource for the community. Um, and and there's programs for adults too and stuff. So it's just a really I love our library. They renovated a few years ago and it's really amazing. So anyway, um, so the library, he says, the library is the only unit of government in Downers Grove with over 1% tax levy authority that is not accountable to either representative government or the taxpayer. There have been safety issues there over the years with 200 pages of incident reports showing assault of library staff, indecent exposure, lewd conduct, and videotaping an 8-year-old in the bathroom. In addition, FOIA requests show the library director has broken Illinois law and violated Library Records Confidentiality Act in releasing the names of all library or Downers Grove Library cardholders. Was affirmed in a response from the Illinois Attorney General. This is not opinion. The line in the law is not esoteric. You don't need to be a lawyer to interpret it. It states clearly the following: the registration and circulation records of the library are confidential information. No person shall publish or make any information contained in such records public unless, and as the Attorney General noted, unless certain conditions are met. Those conditions have to do with law enforcement. These conditions were not met. I would also argue the library director violated citizens' Fourth Amendment right. We are not secure in our persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. If a government bureaucrat can just release that, we have such papers to any John or Jane Doe asking. We cannot abide a lawless bureaucrat, especially at the local level. We cannot abide a lawless bureaucrat, especially at the local level. Have you seen the president? Paul, have you seen the president? Especially at the local level? What about the president? We need to set an example. I will not rest until I see this bureaucrat held accountable for breaking the law and violating our rights. So he's going after the library. Uh, there's just to give you some context about this 200 page of laws of um, incidents. I just want to. It sounds like we live in a really dangerous area the way that he makes it sound, and I just wanted to share this little tidbit here. Downers Grove, Illinois is considered a safe community with a significantly lower crime rate compared to national averages. The overall crime rate is approximately 264.9 per 100,000 residents, which is about 88.6% below the national average of 2,324.2 per 100,000. Violent crimes occur at a rate of 95.8 per 100,000 residents, and property crimes at 169.1 per 100,000 residents, both substantially lower than national averages. This is not like a dangerous community to live in. In fact, when I moved here, um, shortly after I moved here, it was elected picked the second best place to raise kids in the country after Lincoln, Nebraska. And some of the things that it mentioned as being um, things that would attract people here were our library and our parks. So anyway, I find it interesting that Paul Drabik's main concern is the Downers Grove Library and not the methadone clinic, where the drug addicts stand outside and intermingle with our high school students as they walk past it on their way home from school or on their way downtown to go to the ice cream shop. How about moving the methadone clinic somewhere else, Paul? Um, but no, he's concerned with the library. He makes it sound like it's a refuge for thugs. And it's really always filled with families and beautiful art exhibits by local artists. And as I said before, the kids section is really amazing. So his attack on the library is really like kind of actually scary and falls right in line with the Proud Boy program. But you're like, well, you said he was an affiliate of the Proud Boys, Mary. So um, how how is Paul Drabik, who is a veteran, and he's had some experience with well, as a precinct committee person, and he's also on one of the boards right now. Um, but so is his association with the Proud Boys? So like I said, I wasn't going to say anything until one of his supporters brought my name up on his post on Nextdoor. Um, so let me tell you that's part of the story. Um, so I'm not sharing the Nextdoor post. I'm sharing the Facebook post that I did about the Nextdoor post because it kind of summarizes everything. So why not? This is my um, personal Facebook page profile. So it says the town gossipers on Nextdoor had my name in their mouths today, so I had to set them straight. There's a candidate running for the village of Downers Grove that supposedly had ties to the Proud Boys. Click on the first pick and scroll for the post comments and my responses. So here's a picture of Paul. He had a meeting on February 22nd, and the first thing I put was check out Mary Kind of Contrary before voting for Proud Boys and the Republican affiliates. So here, just to give you some context, here he is saying, Lisa, I have no affiliation with any group. I am independent and free. My thoughts are my own. Guilt by association is a form of culture I just don't accept. And I also don't accept the labels of political adversaries. Um, and this person says your the company you keep it speaks volumes. It's not cancel culture. You do you. Who cares? Just don't want you to have a role in governing. And he says, okay, well, we'll see where the chips fall, but you suggest that only your perspective is the accepted version. I don't know how you are suggesting otherwise. The whole point is we don't agree. There's more to these conversations, but then here's me getting brought up. So you're saying all Democrats have the same ideals as Mary Lemanski? Surely others would disagree with her statements, but the company you keep speaks volumes. And so then I just had to come here and say, hey, are all DuPage County um, Republicans like precinct committee person Terry Newsom? And then I put a link to the article, one of the articles I just shared. And then I went to comment to both Lisas who were on that post. If you want, Lisa, if you want the full story on what happened, visit marykindofcontrary.com. I spoke at a school board meeting with Proud Boys present, and a week later, my tweets go viral. I was targeted because my social media campaigns were pivotal in getting out the youth vote and turning DuPage County from mostly red to mostly blue. There's so much more, but I can't really talk about it because there are pending cases. And then, um, and then I said, here's something new I did recently for y'all Cada to gossip about. And I put a link to an article in the State Journal Register where I um, was interviewed because I was part of a Grammy nominated blues album. Is it was Antonio Vergara's The Fury, so you should check it out. But anyway, so that was part of what went on on next door. And then so then there was more on the thread. So Paul Drabik responds back to Lisa on this next door post. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Again, I'm not part of any group. You keep bringing this up for some reason. And further, you reference Wikipedia off the top of my head. I know three examples of false claims by Wikipedia, like Rush Limbaugh, Clarence Thomas, and oh yeah, that little Hunter Biden laptop incident. Wikipedia is edited by users. My God, is literally the most untrustworthy source there is. And of course, you reference it. It's always the first result in basically any search query. It's intellectually lazy. Did you even think to go directly to the source? Your response just shows that you're unwilling to have a serious discussion. Here's the left's political philosophy, all logical fallacies. Argument from authority, ad hominem attacks, guilt by association, hasty generalizations. They don't want to discuss the issues. Dismissing people as hateful is easy because then you don't have to back up any of your arguments. Um, Somebody replied back, everything is edited by users. That's how it gets there to begin with. Um, Everything edited by users. That's how it gets there to begin with. Um, and there's fact checkers on there. So I said Wikipedia has fact checkers and uses references to back up the facts on there. You can click through and see the source, which makes it a better resource of information than Fox News, OAN, and Breitbart, where they just pull things out of their rear end and say it as fact. And I said Fox News was sued for $787 million for its election denying lies. Fact. Then I asked him if he'd self-reflected, which probably wasn't nice. But uh, then I said, Democrats say guilt by association, but my name gets brought up by some gossipy Republican in this thread for something I did 4 years ago. Okay. Uh, Actually, yeah, I guess technically it was three years ago and 3 months or 2 months or whatever it was. But um, uh, and um, and then I said, and all I did was say something. It wasn't like I separated children from their parents or stole money from cancer kids, if you want to get down to it. Um, and then let's see. Then there was one final part. Oh, he responded back to me. He says, fact checkers, Paul Drabik responds back to me. Fact checkers are the most useless propagandistic waste of space on the internet. Yeah, because facts don't matter to Republicans. Tell me, what do I need a fact checker for when I go to the source myself and find the information? Kind of like, what do I need Wikipedia for when I can go straight to the source and find the information, especially with assistance of AI in finding direct media source material? My point is, argument from authority is a logical fallacy. It's not addressing the actual argument, especially when the authority is not a credible source. So I responded back, the fact checkers on Wikipedia make sure the links are legit and that everything is truthful, which does not seem to be a high priority for some people these days. My physics teacher in high school read physics textbooks for fun and found errors in one. He wrote the publisher and they hired him to correct their textbooks. So fact checkers are really important. He was also an advisor to NASA and a Catholic priest. My point is that facts are important and we can have multiple sources that tell the truth. We don't just need one source. That's how state-run media gets started. AI could not tell me whether or not Ted Nugent ever won a Grammy, so I don't trust it. It gave me three different answers. That's why we need fact checkers, because facts matter. And then somebody said LOL, and they posted an article that says Wikipedia co-founder criticizes site, says it has slid into leftist propaganda. And so I responded back, leftist, this is not Paul Drabik, by the way, this is somebody named Mark. But anyway, it says leftist propaganda. So I responded back, leftist propaganda means telling the truth about what white males did to everybody else throughout recorded history. Um, and um, and then I also, one other thing that I also did was go back on there and set everybody straight. Everybody was saying I got fired from my position. They said, "Oh, we don't associate with her. We fired her. They fired her." That's why I was, so I had to go on there and set everybody straight. I was not fired from my position as the DuPage County Democrats social media person. I I resigned myself and I posted my resignation on the DuPage County um, Democrats social media because I built that thing from like just like around 2,000 followers to 7,000 in just a few months. And it's for a local election. Like, who cares about local elections a lot of the time? I mean, just saying more people should care about local elections, but they don't really. I mean, they don't get the numbers of these accounts don't get the numbers of followers that you know nationally run state accounts do. So to have 7,000 people interested in what the DuPage County Democrats were doing is pretty amazing, I thought. But anyway, and that's maybe why I was targeted, as I said earlier. But so anyway, so this kind of gives you a background of what was going on and why I felt the need to get into um, to respond to what was going on Nextdoor. But then after I responded to what was going on Nextdoor, I um, I was sent some even more incriminating evidence for Paul Drabik, which I will share with you right now. So here we go. Here we have Terry Newsom is with Paul Drabik and 22 others, 22 other Proud Boys. I don't know, 22 other people. New Gateway pundit story exposes Downers Grove Democratic extremist ties to Antifa and the Southern Poverty Law Center. So here's a Hate Watch article, and it says head of Trump's immigration plans met Proud Boys associate about deportations. That's the article I shared with you earlier. And here's Terry Newsom sharing it out on his social media and tagging Paul Drabik and 22 other people. Um, let's see. And then here's one where Terry Newsom is at the Downers Grove Public Library with 26 others. Um, and he tags the Downers Grove Public Library. And he says, voters of Downers Grove, it's time to elect a father who is willing to speak the truth and defend his community, parents, and children. Paul Drabik is the father of two young children and an Iraqi combat vet is running for Downers Grove Village Council. Paul put his life online for us, our children in America. Now he's willing to fight against a small group of radical Downers Grove, probably leftist extremists. I must be the leftist extremist, or one of them that he targeted and put out of commission. He and many others. Um, all right. Um, here's another one. Terry Newsom is with Paul Drabik and 14 others. So Terry Newsom tags Paul Drabik in a lot of stuff, and Terry Newsom has ties to Proud Boys. So Paul Drabik has ties to Proud Boys because he's tagging them with other people. I don't these are screenshots that were sent to me, so I don't have access to see who these 14 other people are that he's tagging. But in this post here, Dana Kennedy, he says, Dana Kennedy, a reporter for the New York Post, moved to Chicago 6 months ago. So you're a reporter for the New York Post and you moved to Chicago. And it says, she asked me to show her around the city and help arrange meetings with local residents. You're a reporter for the New York Post and you moved to Chicago, and the person that you want to show you around Chicago hangs around with Proud Boys? And that's who you want to introduce you to people? What's the New York Post ties to the Proud Boys? So I found that interesting. Um, and of course, Paul Drabek is tagged in that post. And then here's one. Terry Newsom is with Paul Drabek and 21 others again. Thursday night, May 9th at 7 o'clock. Paul Drabek and I are hosting Sargis Sangari, CEO and his NECS-SE near East Center for Strategic Engagement and U.S. Army Special Forces Lieutenant. We will be discussing the Marxist radicalization of college students. The attached video is from my visit to University of Chicago's Quad Center, where radical Hamas supporting students had their encampment, so Palestinian protesters. I was told that my filming was considered to be aggressive behavior. Watch it. It says it's funny, I think is what it says. I can't see it all on this. Oh, wait. Yeah, it's funny stuff. Yeah, terrorizing um, protesters is funny stuff for Mr. Terry Newsom, the Republican precinct committee person, along with Paul Drabek and others. And I think that's, oh, no, here's more. There's more. I thought that was all, and there's more. Here's Terry Newsom, also with Paul Drabek and 25 others. I really want to know, are these 25 others also Proud Boys? Are they all extremists? They Republican politicians? Who are they? Um, maybe somebody can take screenshots of that and send it to me. So anyway, um, this is Republicans, Independents, and Democrats of Downers Grove. This is Terry Newsom again on his social media. I want to reach out to everyone in Downers Grove, DuPage County, and anyone who shares our concerns about our family's challenges today. We are at a pivotal moment where liberal extremists are targeting parents who dare to object to inappropriate content in our schools. How ironic these people targeted me for objecting about what they were saying at the schools. And all I did was get up and voice my opinion against them. I just used my freedom of speech. Go back and watch my episode or listen to my old podcast episodes about all the stuff they did to me. This just makes my blood boil. Liberal extremists targeting parents. Nobody's to object to inappropriate content in our schools. There was no inappropriate content. The irony of it all, the projection of it all. Okay, I think that was all the ones in that. I think that was all the information that I had, but you can see that he pals around with somebody, Paul Drabik pals around with Perry Newsom, who is on the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate watch list. I mean, do we really want him in charge, at our village, and on the village commission, going after our library? I mean, please, please, please do not vote for this guy. Um, uh, I, uh, I, he may not be a proud boy, but he sure hangs out with people who hang out with proud boys. Um, and I guess that's all I really need to say. Um, the uh, early voting starts tomorrow. The election day is April 1st. Got like 2 weeks. Do your research. You can check all the things that I talked about. You can check all the resources that I displayed, and yeah, make your own decision. But I won't be voting for him. Thank you for watching the Mary Kind of or listening to the Mary Kind of Contrary podcast and watching the video version of it if you are watching it. Otherwise, have a great day and thanks again.